Hello everybody, this is the notes for Geometry Section 1.1. I'm going to be upfront with you, this is going to be kind of a dry lesson, but it's really an important lesson also. Basically what we're talking about is the language and the parts that we use and how we name these parts and kind of the definitions of all these different things that we kind of like just build together to form all of the other geometric shapes. And so it's kind of like it's learning the correct language. Now, a couple of things. I'm going to try to do my best with the technology I have. There's going to be a little bit of delay in how I write just because of what I'm using. I don't have anything better. I can't get rid of that little watermark, that smart notebook there that's kind of over my face. But it's what it is. So let's go with it. Okay. In this first section, we're talking about these undefined terms. It's kind of a weird thing because we're going to try to define them, but we really can't. So, the building blocks of geometry. We start with these smallest objects and we kind of put them together and it forms other shapes. So, first one is a point. It's just a dot. That's all it is. But the way we label it, capital letters. Whenever we name a point, it's always, we write it as a capital letter. Lowercase letters mean something different. So again, it's our language that we use in geometry. So a point, capital letters. When you have 2 points, like we have in this drawing right here, points A and B, there is a thing called a postulate that says through any 2 points, you can construct exactly one line. So we have 2 points, we have a line. So again, points A, point, capital B. So when we name a line, you got a couple of things written here. The way it's written out, we use those points, A, B, and we draw this double arrow thing above our 2 points. That's the proper notation for calling it a line, to say that we're referring to line AB. Now, with lines go on forever. We have our 2 points that are forming the line, but it goes on forever this direction, it goes on forever in that direction. And that's kind of part of the definition of a line. It goes on forever through infinity in both directions. So if we name a line BA, looking at this picture, is that a different line? It's not. So we have a couple of ways we can name a line, because it doesn't really matter, it goes on forever in both directions. We have another option, this lowercase cursive letter. We usually use L and M and N. I don't know why, but that's what you're going to see more often than not. But you can name it just by writing the word line and then whatever that lowercase letter is in cursive. All right, you put 2 points together, you have a line. To form a plane, now the idea of a plane, it's just a flat surface. Your table is a plane. It's a physical representation of a plane. Any flat surface, it's considered a geometric plane. Now, when we say it's a flat surface, there are no bumps in it. There's no curves up, curves down in any sort of way. It is perfectly flat, goes on forever in all directions, perfectly flat. In order to get a plane, we need to have 3 non-collinear points. That's the proper definition. I'll talk more about it in a second, but basically means those 3 points cannot be on the same line. So when we look at this picture here, we got point A, capital letter, point B, capital letter, point C, also capital letter, because those are points. But those 3 points, you cannot draw one line and hit all 3 points. You can draw multiple lines, but one line, you can't do it. So these 3 points form a plane. It's a flat surface. Now, if you think about it like a tripod for a camera. It's a tripod because it's got 3 legs. That's why we call it that. But it's only got 3 legs because you want that camera to stand perfectly still. And so those 3 legs can form a flat surface. They form the plane. That flat surface keeps the camera solid and stops it from moving. Okay, how we name a plane, it's written right here, plane, ABC. So you just write the word plane and then those 3 points that are forming the plane, the non-collinear points. Sometimes you're going to see this. It's kind of hard to tell the difference in this picture, but it's a bold capital letter M Again, you'll see M's, R's, S's. No reason for those letters, but it's bold, it's capitalized, and it's usually in the corner of the plane that's drawn. We can name it just by calling it plane and whatever that capital bold letter is. All right. Now, when we talk about a line, lines go on forever in both directions. We can take apart some of those things. So the first one is a segment. A segment is just a portion of a line. It starts, it stops. We call both of those things endpoints. Starts here, goes to there, that's it. It's a segment. It's just one point to another point. How we name a segment. We use those endpoints, again, capital letters, and we just put this dash above it. No arrows. The arrows means it keeps on going past that point. Endpoint start, stop. That's how you name a segment. With segments, you could also go the other direction. Capital B, capital A. It's still the same segment, whether you're going from A to B or B to A. We didn't change the segment, same thing, so we could name it this way, but again, capital letters, dash above it. A ray. Think of a ray as kind of like a laser beam. It starts at one point and then goes on forever through another point and continues. It's just like a line. It doesn't curve. It just keeps going in that straight line. There's no bends to it, anything like that. It just keeps going in one direction. Starts at this ray, starts at A, goes through B, continues on forever. Now, with rays, because it starts at one point and then goes forever through another point, how you name it is important. We always name it by what point the ray is starting at. So this ray starts at B, goes through A, and continues on forever. And we draw this little one-sided arrow. Starting at B, going through A, continues on forever. That's what that one arrow means. This ray, it starts at A, goes through B, continues on forever. So this is how we name it. Notice how I use the capital letters again. All right. So segment is just a part of a line, starts, stops. A ray starts at one point, goes on forever. You could kind of call a ray like a half a line. Lines go on forever to infinity. Half of infinity is still infinity, so you can think of it visually, it looks like half a line, but it's not. All right, next idea, this opposite rays. All right, we have a line, so all of these 3 points, A, C, and B, they're all on one line, but an opposite ray, we have this one point, C. We have a ray that goes from C through A, so ray C, A. And then we have the other side of the line, starting at C, going through B. We have this ray. These two rays are called opposite rays. They start at the same point, but they go in opposite directions on the same line. All right, that's just, it's a name. We don't do too much with it, but it's still something that kind of defines some other things later on in the year. Okay, so some terms that we use. Colinear. Okay, there's two parts to that word. Linear, meaning line. Co, meaning with or together on the same thing. So colinear means they are on the same line. So when we look at this line that's drawn, we got point X, point Y, point Z. They're all on the same line. We call those 3 points colinear. Again, we don't do too much with that, but it's a phrasing that helps define some other things later on. Coplanar, same idea. Planar means plane. Co means on or with. So, coplanar means all of these things, they're on the same plane. So when we look at plane P here, this flat surface, point B, point A, point D, point C, they're all on this plane. Those 4 points are called coplanar. If I drew this other point up here and called it point E, that point is not on the plane. So think of it as like, if you can see in the picture, here's a piece of paper, but it's a flat surface. Pretend it's flat. It's a plane. My fingertip up here, it's not on that plane. So this point, my finger, is not on the same plane. So it's not coplanar. Okay, another big thing we talk about is called intersections. Where do these different parts, okay, segments, lines, rays, planes, where do they intersect? If you have a couple of these objects, where are they going to be crossing at? Again, kind of an important idea, and it's more just a visualization. So here we have two lines. They intersect at a single point. We can call that point whatever we want. But remember, lines go on straight forever. There's no bends in lines. They don't curve. There's no angles. That's a separate line. It's a straight object. So when we have one line crossing another line, they can only intersect at a single point. Here we have two planes. It's kind of a weird drawing, but the darker shaded one, that's one plane. Think of it as kind of like it's more vertical, like this. The other plane, the one that's kind of white, is this. So we got one plane that's a little bit more vertical. We have another plane that's kind of horizontal, like this. Those two planes intersect at a single line. If you look real carefully, that is line AB. Okay, two planes intersect at a single line. Now, you can kind of tell this. I'm going to see if this works in this camera, but back here, this wall is one plane. It's a flat surface. This wall over here, different plane, flat surface. They're intersecting at this seam all up and down. So geometrically, that intersection of those two walls or two planes, it's a line, it's a segment kind of idea. All right, I wish I was at school because this is my favorite demonstration right here. We have a plane and we have a line. When these two objects intersect, a plane and a line, they intersect at a single point, this point right here. It's kind of like poking a hole through a piece of paper, where this plane, the paper, and this pencil, which is a line, interpretation of a line, they intersect at this one spot. Okay, that's considered a point. All right, moving on. So the next couple of things, I'm going to try to go through them real quick. I just want to tell you, on the Google Classroom, I've answered all of these examples in the notes so that you can kind of maybe just kind of fast forward it. But what we're looking at is just trying to visualize where these different objects are. We're working on the visualization of it, the intersections of them, but also we're working on naming things properly. Anytime you name a point, capital letter. If it's a line, use that double arrow. If it's a ray, starts at one, use the arrow going in one direction. When we name a plane, use those three non-collinear points. So, looking at this picture over here, name 3 points. Well, you can name any of them. You got point, I'm trying to get this pen work. You got point A, point B, point C, point D, point E. Those are all points. Okay, this K, it's kind of bold. It's in the corner of the plane. That is not a point. This lowercase m, it's naming this line. M is not a point. Give 3 other names for line, double arrow, DB. DB is this line here. Notice how the lowercase m is right there. So we can call it, oops, line, I'm trying to write a cursive L. Line M, we can name it that way. Because lines go on forever in both directions, we can name this BD. It's a different name, but it's the same line. Okay, capital letters, double arrow. We could also, if we look at this line, we could also use the points B and E. So we could name it BE, put the line notation. We could go the other direction. We could also use D and E. So D, E. Same line, different name. Name the plane in 2 ways. Okay, we got plane and we got that capital bold K in the corner of the plane. So we could do that. Then we need 3 non-collinear points. So now, point D is up above the plane. Point E is kind of down below the plane if you look at the visualization of it. So the 3 points that are on the plane and they're not on the same line is A, B, and C. So we can name it as plane, and you just got to write the word. Sorry, my pen is not working very great. Plane A, B, C. Okay, name 4 different rays. Remember, a ray starts at one point, goes forever through another point. So in this picture, I'm just going to start at B. We got ray B, A. When you name a ray, capital letters, starting at B, going through A. So that's this ray, from B going through A forever. I can go B, starting at